I never thought Instagram could ruin my life. For me, it was just a place to post travel photos, share nights out with friends, and scroll through memes after work. Normal. Safe. Then one night a message appeared in my inbox. It was from someone I didn't know, but the profile picture was my best friend's face. The username looked right too, just a small variation, barely noticeable. The message said, "Did you know what she's saying about you?" My stomach dropped. I clicked. The account was private, but it had my friend's pictures, screenshots, captions, even the same followers. It felt real, and for a second I actually believed it was her. That's how it started. Just one message, one tiny crack in the wall of trust I had in the people around me. At first, I brushed it off. Fake accounts happen all the time, right? But then more messages came. Different profiles, different names. Yet somehow they all knew too much. One claimed my boyfriend was cheating. Another said my coworkers laughed about me behind my back. The worst ones pretended to be my friends, using their photos, their writing style, their slang. And the scary part, they'd reference things no stranger should know. What I wore the night before, the bar I'd been at, even a private joke only a few close friends would understand. I started doubting everything. I'd look at my real friends across the table and wonder, is it really you texting me? Or is it him? That was Matthew Hardy's trick. He didn't just stalk me, he dismantled my reality. Section 3. The Escalation. Everything multiplies. It didn't stay a single fake account for long. Once he found a way in, he multiplied. One morning I'd block a profile, and by evening 3 new ones would be slipping into my DMs. They all said the same thing in slightly different voices. Warnings, confessions, screenshots of conversations that never happened. One would claim my friend had said something cruel. Another would pretend to be my friend and send me private messages that made me doubt my own memory. They used the faces of people I trusted, my classmates, exes, even my sister's photo once, and typed words in the same slang we used at parties. It was precise, and it felt personal. At first I thought I could outsmart him, block, report, change passwords. But every time I closed one door, he opened 3 more. He'd create accounts that looked like friends, accounts that looked like friends of friends, accounts that appeared to be private circles. When I reported them, some vanished like ghosts, others reappeared faster than the platform could act. The messages weren't just meant to annoy me. They were surgical, designed to isolate me, to make me mistrust anyone who reached out. The worst part was how quickly the people around me started to change how they looked at me. A whisper here, a raised eyebrow there. Someone forwarded a screenshot to a classmate, and suddenly I was asking questions I hadn't prepared for. People asked, "Are you okay?" in a way that felt pitiful and distant. I felt like the ground was dissolving under my feet, one DM at a time. He didn't need to show up on my doorstep to hurt me. He rewired my sense of reality. He impersonated my friend so well that I began apologizing for things I hadn't done. He posted screenshots saying I'd sent messages I never sent. He'd sent me private photos of places I'd been and captioned them as if he'd been there with me. I remember staring at my phone and thinking, if he can fake this much, what else can he fake? Who could I trust when someone could mimic a voice, a joke, even the way my friend spelled a certain nickname? Sleep left me. I started living in small calculations. Who to text, how to phrase things, whether to post at all. I stopped posting photos of nights out. I stopped checking in at cafes. The app that used to make me feel alive became the map of my exposure. Even when friends reached out with concern, I flinched, because part of me wondered if the message was really from them, or from him wearing their face. Every time I thought I could step away, uninstall the app for a week, close accounts, or go offline, he'd find a way to reach me anyway. He weaponized momentum. If a smear appeared, he would gather comments. If a lie was posted, others amplified it. He made the online crowd against me. He turned the social into a hostile environment. There comes a point when fear stops being private and becomes evidence. That's when I went to the police. I sat in a tiny interview room and showed screenshots until my thumbs ached. The detectives were patient. They printed out messages, traced IPs where they could, cataloged every fake account I could remember. It felt excruciatingly slow and somehow also immediate. These little blue ticks and time-stamped screenshots were now items in a case file. Detectives told me this was not unusual in Hardy's pattern. Serial impersonation, layer after layer of fake profiles, accounts that reappeared under different names. They said what I felt in my bones. He wanted to control more than my account. He wanted to control the story of me. They asked me to preserve evidence, to screenshot, to not delete anything. They explained how the cat and mouse worked on their side. Sometimes the platforms complied quickly. Sometimes it took days. In those days, the hurt grew. Sitting there, giving testimony, I felt both small and enormous. Small because the system moved in administrative steps. Enormous because I had been pushed into being both survivor and archivist of my own terror. Investigators did what I couldn't. They traced patterns across dozens of impersonations and complaints. They linked the accounts, followed metadata breadcrumbs, and identified an organized network of profiles that all tied back to the same operator. It wasn't glamorous. It was files and timestamps, and the kind of patient digital forensics the agencies do when they have to dismantle a long-running operation. When the arrest came, it felt surreal. A man in plain clothes, held in custody, accused of targeting scores of women with impersonations, lies, and harassment. The press wrote about the years of harassment, the dozens of victims who'd come forward. He was Matthew Hardy, a name that suddenly had headlines and court dates attached to it. In 2022, he was convicted for stalking and harassment. Multiple sentences followed the connected investigations. The conviction didn't flip a switch on all the damage he'd done, but in that moment, seeing the case file progress, knowing someone had been held to account, something in me exhaled. Not relief so much as recognition that what had happened to me was real, that what had been dismissed as weird online stuff had a criminal anatomy and a courtroom name. Conviction didn't erase nights of dread. It didn't undo the months I spent rephrasing messages, deleting posts, avoiding friends who'd been manipulated into doubting me. Recovery was a series of small reclamations, changing accounts, placing two-factor authentication like a moat, and rebuilding trust the way you'd rebuild a house after a vandal had torn through the place. I started therapy. It helped to have someone who didn't react with alarm or skepticism, someone who treated the digital wounds as real wounds. I learned practical survival skills. Screenshot everything. Keep an evidence folder. Never respond to impersonating accounts. Get a friend to verify messages when in doubt. Little rituals that return a sliver of control. But there were also social scars. Some friendships frayed. Job applications required explanations. Social media feels different now. It can be an art gallery or a hazard, and the border between those two is porous. When I scroll, part of me is cataloging patterns instead of enjoying images. I survived. So did many others Hardy targeted. Not everyone's outcome is the same, and not every abuser gets caught. But there are things we can do that matter. Don't assume a profile is real because the photo looks familiar. Reverse image search suspicious profile photos. Ask mutual friends for confirmation if someone messages claiming to be them. Screenshot everything, timestamp it, and give copies to someone you trust. If you feel unnerved, take the step to report and to call local police. The chain of evidence matters. If you're shaken, reach out for support, friends, family, or a therapist. You don't have to carry it alone. If my story does one thing, I want it to change the language people use about online harm. It isn't just online. It's real trauma, and it damages lives. Platforms must move faster, and we must stop treating survivors as if they're overreacting. Listen, document, and act. If you were affected by this story, please share resources in the comments. Subscribe for more survivor accounts. And if you're in immediate danger, call your local emergency services now. For UK viewers, refer to the police non-emergency number or local victim support services. For elsewhere, please contact your local support lines. Instagram felt like home for me. Then it became the room where my privacy and reputation were carved up. I want you to see how close the danger can be. How someone can make 100 small mirrors and reflect an identity that isn't you. I'm still here. I'm still rebuilding, and if this helps one person step back, verify a profile, or call the police earlier, then telling it was worth the pain. This story is based on the real-life case of Matthew Hardy, a UK man convicted in 2022 for a long-running campaign of stalking and harassment carried out through Instagram and other social media platforms. While the events have been dramatized for storytelling purposes, the underlying crimes and their impact on victims are real. Some names, locations, and perspectives have been fictionalized to protect privacy. Viewer discretion is advised, as this story contains themes of stalking, impersonation, and emotional abuse. If you or someone you know is experiencing harassment or stalking online, please reach out to your local authorities or support organizations immediately. Online abuse is not just digital. It has real consequences, and help is available.
When we think about horror stories, we often think about ghosts, demons, paranormal incidents, and whatnot, but we seldom consider our social media sites to be a source of evil and horror as well. As a mother of two and a high school teacher, I would like to share an Instagram horror story with you. The whole incident began 6 months ago, when a student named Emma stopped attending school. At first we all thought she was ill, but as days turned into weeks, her parents were contacted. What they told us was heartbreaking and scary. Emma had run away. She was just 14 and had been reported missing, but no trace of her was found yet. It was common for kids from disturbed homes to run away, but Emma came from a very stable family, loving parents, and a younger brother she adored. So why did she do it? All she had left behind was a cryptic note that explained nothing. No one knew what had happened, and no one knew where to look. A month later, another girl ran off, and she, too, had left behind a similar note. I love you, but I love this new life of mine more. What new life were the girls talking about? The authorities knew this was related, but had no idea how. The two girls weren't in the same class, nor were they friends. So how are they both going to go missing within a month of each other being connected? The whole town was spiraling. People had theories, and parents were worried about their kids, but nothing really made sense. As a mother of two teenage daughters, I was naturally worried too. That's when my 15-year-old once mentioned very casually over dinner who she had been getting direct messages or DMs from unknown accounts on Instagram. My ears perked up the second she said that. Honey, who are these people sending you messages? I don't know, I mostly just delete them without reading. I know you have told me to stay away from strangers on Instagram or any social media apps, so I do. I was happy my daughter was, but that night I did something I would have never done. I created a new Instagram account and pretended to be a high school girl. And this is how the horror story got worse. I was friends with some of my students on Instagram, so for a few weeks I posted general high school photos using AI and made my account look like that of a teenage girl. But still I had no creepy DMs, only genuine high school students who thought I was one of them had sent me follow requests. One evening, however, as I was cooking dinner, my phone buzzed. Someone named Aaron Dane had DM'd me. I opened the message, and I instantly knew that this wasn't a teenager. This was someone way older, and I knew what I had to do. I pretended to be a teenager and engaged in a conversation with this man. Within a few messages, I got to know that he was 27 years old, and he thought I was very confident and mature for my age. As we kept texting, this person tried to know more and more about me, what I liked and disliked, and how the situation at my home was, what were my dreams and aspirations, all while he constantly told me how amazing I was. To a teenager, this sort of praise from someone so old would feel like the wind under their wings. The days passed and I, or should I say the teenager I was pretending to be, became good friends with Aaron. He knew almost everything about me, right down to my everyday lecture schedule. But one day he asked me to share a nude photo of me, and I was stunned. Who asks a 14-year-old to do that? I refused, but he insisted. His text made me want to puke. He texted that I was stunning and he wanted to see me. He even confessed that he loved me. I knew that moment that these girls were being groomed and maybe even blackmailed. I knew I had enough information to take it to the cops, but I still had one ace up my sleeve. I told Aaron I wanted to meet him and that I loved him too. The load of text messages I got after that confirmed that he too had fallen into my trap. But I texted him back saying that because 2 girls had disappeared from my school, my parents won't let me meet him. That's when he casually texted back that those 2 had been married to 2 of Aaron's friends. My blood ran cold, and I asked him casually if they were okay. His last text was before I turned to the authorities. If they behave well, then yes, they will be okay. This was a serious thing. When I went to the police station that evening, the detective leading both cases spoke to me. I handed him my phone and showed him my Instagram DMs. He wasn't pleased, and the cybersecurity unit took over after that. The cops were able to trace the location of Aaron, and within days he was arrested, but there was no sign of the 2 girls. And what unfolded after that arrest was not just shocking, but equally heartbreaking. The man whom I'd known to be Aaron confessed to everything. His name was Danny, and he was a member of a grooming gang. This gang targeted young teenage girls who were impressionable and came from broken, disturbed families, or socially awkward girls. They made these girls believe that these men like Aaron, loved them and would care for them if they left their families and came to them. Emma and Lisa, the 2 girls who had run away, had fallen into the trap. The men married them and then shipped them off to Las Vegas to work as sex workers. These men were pimping out young girls by luring them with false promises of love and family. When this scandal became public, the authorities urged parents to look into their kids' phones. 3 more girls from our school were in contact with other members of Aaron, or should I say Danny's team. Thankfully, we could save them in time. However, despite efforts from both state and national authorities, Emma and Lisa were never found. Our school urged the students not to use Instagram, but how long could we control our kids' activities on the internet? If you are a teenage kid watching this video, make sure that you are safe on the internet and social media apps like Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and others. I highly recommend that parents keep an eye on your kids' internet activities.
Very few are aware of the dangers of Instagram. Many people treat me as old-fashioned and exaggerated when they see that I'm too cautious about who I add or accept on my account. But few lived what I lived. It all started on a completely normal day. I was at home, lying in bed watching TV, bored. I heard an Instagram notification, and when I checked my phone, I noticed a follow request on Instagram from a strange user named Ed. He had no posts, followers, or follow back, just a picture of an irisless eye as an avatar. Intrigued, I accepted the request. Maybe it was just a venture of a person looking for followers. I didn't have anything too private on my profile, so I didn't think much of the fact that someone new might see my photos. But as the days went by, I began to notice something disturbing. Ed always saw all my stories, even though he never interacted with my posts. No matter when or at what time I uploaded the story, Ed was there, looking at it within 2 minutes of uploading it. I admit that it started to bother me, as every time I checked his profile, his numbers remained the same. I was the only person he was following. One night, while checking my feed, I noticed that Ed had liked a picture of me. The picture in question showed my house from the outside, a picture I didn't remember posting. He was the only person who had liked the photo, so surely the image was from before, but had been archived. I was totally confused. Where had that picture come from? I decided to block Ed, thinking that would be the solution to free me from his disturbing presence. But as I did so, something strange happened to my cell phone. The Instagram app stopped working, and once I tried to log in again, the app itself blocked me. I couldn't upload stories or posts. I tried to ignore the situation and go on with my life. Maybe I could use a break from social networks. But every time I checked my followers list out of curiosity, Ed reappeared. I began to notice that as the days went by, new photos were uploaded reflecting intimate and personal moments, things I didn't remember sharing. The feeling of being watched became unbearable. One night, when I was home alone, I received an Instagram notification. It was a direct message from Ed. The text was simple but scary. I know where you are. I looked at my surroundings nervously, feeling like someone was watching me from the dark. I decided to turn off my phone and try to forget what happened. The next day, my Instagram account was hacked. All my photos had been deleted, replaced by distorted images and incomprehensible messages. I tried to recover my account, but it was no use. My cell phone was acting up, and I had to reboot it. In desperation, I sought help from Instagram's technical support, but got no clear answers. While dealing with this situation, I started noticing strange events moving into the real world. I was receiving anonymous letters with clippings of my photos and disturbing messages. I don't know what this man wanted from me, what he was doing this for. Fun? Did I want to take it further? Why me? I was slowly becoming desperate. I had too many questions, and what I didn't know was that soon the answers would come. By this time, I had uninstalled Instagram from my cell phone and was temporarily free of the problem, or so I thought. That night, I was at the computer when suddenly I got a notification. It was Instagram, which seemed very strange to me because I didn't use it for my PC, and I hadn't even activated the notifications on there. But by this time, I had stopped believing in coincidences. Intrigued, I opened the Instagram notification. It was another direct message from that Ed guy. This time, he hadn't written me anything. He had sent a picture. A picture of my house. You know what the worst part was? It was that the picture was not from the outside in, but it was taken from inside my house. When I saw this, I gasped and went numb with surprise. I barely had time to react and look around. The lights went out, and everything stopped working. I looked out the window of my house and saw that my house was the only one without power. Part of me knew it was going to be like this. There was someone in the house with me, and I had to face the fact that my life was at risk. I tried to open up the window to escape, but at that moment I realized it was a terrible mistake. Hiding behind the tree, I could see the shadow of someone staring at me. How could there be someone outside? The photo had been taken from inside. Confused, I took a few steps back, on my way to the kitchen. If I was going to confront this psycho, I would at least do it with a knife. I ran in the dark, knowing the house even though I couldn't see anything. But on my way to the kitchen, I tripped over something and fell. I was always a very tidy person. What could be on the floor so big that I tripped? The answer came quickly, and I was shocked. As I looked down at my feet, I realized that the lump I had tripped over was not a basket of clothes or a piece of furniture. It was a man. A man dressed in dark clothing with a hood covering his face. You know what was the only thing I could see very clearly about him? His tongue. Because at that moment he was sucking my bare feet with an enormous obsession and happiness. I kicked him and crawled quickly backward, but the man grimaced with excitement and began to crawl quickly towards me. "Who are you? Why are you in my house?" Without answering me, he reached me and climbed on top of me. My body was immobilized, and I was left helpless and at the mercy of this psychopath. You're Ed, right?"
"No,"
he answered for the first time with a raspy and playful voice.
"I'm Amir, and the man waiting for you outside is Damien. The two of us are Ed, and we've been watching you for a while."
"Why?"
"Why? Why? Why not?"
"You got what you wanted. You already gave me the scare of my life, okay? Just, please, let me go."
"And miss all the fun? And I thought I was the crazy one here."
While the psycho was laughing non-stop, I gave him a hard punch in the face that, to my surprise, knocked him down. I ran as fast as I could, and as I did so, with my eyesight already adapted to the dark, I could see how the psycho put on a terrifying mask and started to chase me. Without fear of getting hurt, I jumped out the window, smashing it to pieces and hurting myself on the way. Once outside, I kept running to go to a neighbor's house, but suddenly, a huge man charged at me and knocked me down. We both began to struggle on the ground, but he was much stronger than me, and with a relentless determination, he began to squeeze my neck. "You had to stay inside with my brother, kid. What? Is it so hard for you to please him? Can't you see he's got a mental problem? Help!" "Nobody will save you from this, boy. I was the one who started this hacking, and I'll be the one to finish it."
"Come on, brother. You can do it."
I was running out of air, and I could no longer breathe. I knew that at that moment, I was going to die for sure. But suddenly, salvation came. Several neighbors rushed at the terrifying man and held him while I ran away. Terrified, the brothers' only reaction was to run in desperation into the shadows. The police soon arrived and arrested the man. His brother appeared shortly thereafter on a highway, lost and disoriented. He could do nothing without his brother, who really was the mastermind. I still think of that day. That day my neighbors noticed that I had run out of electricity and, just out of curiosity, looked over to my house to notice the figure of a man hiding, ready to attack me. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be telling this story to you now. You know, it was all worth it. I learned my lesson. From that day on, I only accept on Instagram people I know. Who knows what kind of psycho might be on the other side of the phone, stalking me. In December 2018, a man was caught harassing and assaulting a young man. The man had previously harassed him on social media, and shortly after his capture, these videos were discovered prior to his arrest. This is a dramatization of the events. Hi, I'm Aaron, and like many people I'm sure you know, I've been a victim of insecurity. However, I must admit that my case was different. You see, many people I know have been robbed, assaulted, and even harassed, but no one has experienced what I have. No one has ever met a person so sick and so scary that they would have preferred to be robbed than just see their face. It all started through social networks. I was always a person who didn't care much about anyone seeing where I lived. I'm a complete stranger, Who cares where I go to dinner or where my house is? I never imagined that this would be a perfect guide for a psychopath to have a map of where I was going to be at all times. At first, you don't realize you're being stalked, but you always have a sign. It's like something in your normal day-to-day life goes wrong, but you can't figure out just what, until it's too late. My signal was my Instagram stories. I had a public Instagram, and I would always see people that I didn't have on my followers list watching them. Normally, I didn't have a problem. This is totally normal if you have a lot of followers, and since I used to be a streamer, I had them. But among all those unknown people, there was one that caught my attention. There was a follower who had no profile picture or followers. This is not so rare, but this profile was something special. As soon as I uploaded the stories, he was already watching them. Sometimes I would mute or block these accounts, but another similar account would always replace them. Whoever this person was, he had too much time on his hands and a strange obsession with me. Anyway, I decided not to worry. The internet is a strange place, and social media is a sewer from which I couldn't really expect much. My life went on as normal until one day I realized that my problem was not the social networks, but something more terrifying that was germinating behind them. I remember how it all started on a completely normal day. One of those days that you'd expect to pass in a normal way, without anything new in between. I came home from work from the call center where I was working and walked into my house. At that moment, I already suspected that something was wrong. When I opened the door to my house, I felt a very unnatural chill running through the house. It was very unusual. It was the winter wind chill outside my house. I always closed the windows. There was just no way the wind could have come in. At that moment, I decided not to follow my intuition and to just go inside. Surely I was overreacting. Possibly I had left the window open before going out. What other explanation could there be? I walked around my house with total indifference, leaving my things on a chair and going to the living room to turn on the TV. But once I got there, my blood froze and my body froze. Someone was sitting on my couch. It was a normal person, even at first glance. When this person saw me come in, he stopped watching TV and turned around to see me. As soon as he saw me, he gave me a big smile and greeted me. "You're home at last, Aaron. How was your day?" "Who are you? What are you doing in my house?" "I'm calling the police." "Do you want to sit and watch a movie with me?" Frozen with fear, I slowly backed away and headed for the door of my house. As fast as I'd come in and thrown my things out, I knew I had to leave and call the police as soon as possible. Without giving me a chance to escape, the person came running at enormous speed and slammed the door on me as I was trying to open it, standing behind me like a huge shadow. Now that he was behind me, his perspective was totally different. The person was really tall. I could feel his presence behind me. I didn't have to turn around to hear him breathing heavily up close. I could feel his drool running down my cheek, preparing to speak as he breathed on me. "I'm a big fan of yours. Are you sure you don't want to watch that movie together?" Terrified and not knowing how to react, I pushed him away and nervously ran back to my room. I admit it wasn't the smartest decision. I should have run out the kitchen window or stopped to grab a knife or something to defend myself, but to tell you the truth, it was my first impulse. Once in my room, I panicked and ran around, not knowing what to do or where to go. Suddenly, someone started knocking on my door subtly. It was the psychopath. "Hey, can you open up, please? I want to tell you a secret." "Get out of here. I'm calling the police." "Oh, and you're doing it with the cell phone you left on the table when you came in?" "What do you want?" "Please, let me go. You can take whatever you want. I screamed, cried, and begged him to leave, but there was no point. He just hit harder and harder, but without changing the rhythm. I panicked. I didn't know what to do, but I knew that if that person caught me, he would hurt me. The knocking on the door stopped, and instead I heard something new. A notification. I could still call for help from my computer. I rushed over and told my parents to call the police when the notifications became much faster and started popping up on my PC. It was the man who saw all my stories. He was talking to me for the first time. He was telling me that he was watching me through the peephole of my door. I looked quickly at the little hole in my door, and yes, it was true. There was an eye moving back and forth. The mysterious Instagram user was this psycho. At that moment, I understood what was going on. This was all planned, and that man hadn't just walked into my house by chance. He had studied me. That made me think that he was not just a person who was crazy. He was someone perverse, someone who had premeditated all of this. Suddenly, I heard a strange noise at the door. The psycho was trying to force it open with a knife. I grabbed a stick to defend myself while I watched as the psycho opened the door, and with a sinister and happy smile, he came into my room. My attempt to defend myself lasted only a few seconds as the psycho grabbed my stick with complete ease and threw it to the side. With immense happiness and almost childlike movements, he jumped towards me with one hand and grabbed my neck and lifted it up, choking me in the process. I tried to resist, but I couldn't even move a finger from where he wanted to put it, as his hand put more and more pressure. As he did so, his eyes took out any willpower I had left. They were eyes full of illusion, happiness, and anticipation. He could no longer bear the desire to see me die. He wanted to break my neck. When I thought everything had come to an end, I heard footsteps entering the house and looking for me. From one second to the next, the police were surrounding the man. He let me go as if nothing bad had happened and said he was just playing a joke on me. The man was arrested on the spot, and although his lawyers said he should go to a psychiatric hospital, they determined that his psychological profile dictated that he belonged in jail, as his inconsistent and childish acts hid a huge and perverse sadism and enjoyment in torturing people. That was the last time I left my social networks public. From that day on, I never again accepted or allowed one I didn't know to know anything about me. The psycho. I have no idea. I asked my lawyer not to tell me anything, just to tell me when he was in jail or not. For all I know, he could still be in jail, but who knows? Maybe I should ask him if he's already free, but I feel that would draw him back to me. I don't want to know anything more about this man, and although it terrifies me to know it, I know that I might see him again someday.